Just a quick message before the episode starts. We're less than 50 subscribers behind our good friends at League One Lowdown, but we know League Two is the better league, so remember to drop a like and a subscribe below. On with the episode.
League Two is a better league. Well, if you're looking at results yesterday, I think many people probably beg to differ. Anyway, welcome back, everyone. We're back with more League Two, I say, content. I'm not sure how much content we're going to get out of this because we've got, there's 11 games that took place yesterday. 5 of them finished 0-0. 3 of them finished 1-0. And yeah, I mean, there was a pretty big game at Valley Parade, which included a very big attendance. And I'm struggling here. I'm struggling just at the top of my head to try and remember what happened. Wimbledon bottled it to the delight of Luke. MK won. Grimsby won. And I'm trying to remember what else happened just without looking at my phone. It's quite difficult to at the moment. I can't honestly remember who else did. I'll have a look in a minute. It probably just proves how not interesting this weekend.
This is very forgettable.
This is, yeah, and this will be a very forgettable pod after we've done with this one. But yeah, we've heard him. We've got Luke with you. A win on the road at Cheltenham this week for you lot. But just personally, Cesar, how are you feeling on this fine Sunday?
Oh, I'm so much happier. I know it's only one win, but it's just the fact that we've broken this little curse of once we win a game, we have to lose the next 3. We've finally broken that. We've looked good. The vibes are high, and Jonathan Lecco is finally back after a year of being injured. It's just great to see him smiling, to be honest.
Let's see how long that lasts. Bloke's made his glasses, isn't he? But yeah, we've also got, as you've probably heard in the call to action bit, we've also got Jake, of course, at Salford, one of only 2 teams not in League Two action this weekend. How did you find your free weekend?
Yeah, it was nice. I played a little bit of football and realised how hard it is on the body. So I have a bit more respect for them. So that'll be nice.
How hard it is on the body? I mean, look, you could be. Look, I had 2 hours sleep. Yeah, I've been. I say that like it, like it's self. I mean, it's pretty much self-inflicted. I had 2 hours sleep because I was working. I did a night shift from Friday to Saturday morning. I was asleep again for 2 hours. I went straight to the pub, straight to the game. And then afterwards, I was working till 2 last night. And oh my God, I was broken. I don't think I've ever been up so long. But I'm waffling on here. Town won again. And we're back in the playoffs. That's the main thing. So I took a lot of solace from that at work yesterday. And it sort of got me through it. I was a little bit more happier at the end of it. And it's a shame that Kieran's not on, because I would have absolutely ripped him a new one for it tonight as to how awful Newport are. But we'll get onto that in a little bit. I think there's only one place to start, isn't there? We know that Colchester flying high, been on this incredible unbeaten run, 5 straight wins. I think they're like unbeaten like 12 or 13 or something. We know that Bradford have been good at home quite recently, albeit they did lose their last game at home, but against Tranmere, which was a little bit of a shock result. But that shouldn't be a deterrent as to how well they have been at home, especially since the turn of the year. I think, me and you, Luke, mentioned it in the preview pod in the week that I think we was expecting a tough game, and you check the result at full time to see Bradford have won 4-1. It's a real step. That's a proper statement result, that, and certainly one in which if this Bradford team don't go up, then I think there's something seriously wrong. To do that against probably the best team in the division at the moment is absolutely terrific. And I mentioned something as well. Valley Parade is the place where long unbeaten runs come to an end, because they did exactly the same to Walsall like a couple of months or so back now. But what an unbelievable result that is for Bradford City.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, we kind of said it. I had a feeling with this one. It's a case of, they've just lost to Tranmere, so they're just going to go unbeaten.
4-1, really?
4-1 though. Yeah, no, I wasn't expecting quite that much of a difference. And the thing is, I don't think Colchester even necessarily played that badly. It's just Bradford were on another level. To create that many chances as it is against a side like Colchester that are typically tough to beat is incredible. but to then go and take those chances with key players missing as well, to be fair, in forward areas. Yeah, I mean, fair play. That is a huge statement of intent. And if you're talking about a big twist that could, like, if you're looking for a moment that we're going to look back on at the end of the season and go, that was the moment we knew they were going up, I think that could well be this one.
Yeah, and I think it certainly felt like it certainly had that big game feeling, and we'll get onto it a little bit more in a minute. But you also felt there was a little bit more, I say, sort of pressure, but not really after back-to-back defeats against two not great sides. Let's be perfectly honest. It has sort of, there were not great results. I think it was important that they hopped on that horse as quickly as they can. And it was some way to do it. A brace for Callum Kavanagh, a brace for George Lapsley in there. Is it Callum? Yeah, it is Callum Kavanagh. I was just mentioning that. Yeah, but a brace for George Lapsley is a player that I've liked quite a lot. Harry Anderson with the only goal for the U's. Obviously, being a Grimsby fan, I was quite delighted with that result. I probably won't be delighted come Friday evening, but that's a totally different one, and it adds that extra spice onto that game. The fact that Colchester will be wanting a response at home, and that does terrify me a little bit because on they, as we've seen quite recently, they've been unbelievable. And they're a side that don't concede many goals, and conceding 4 yesterday certainly came as a surprise, but. As mentioned, Colchester and Grimsby on Friday night. It's a big game for both. We'll probably mention it at some point later on in the week, but it's a huge game for both. It's definitely in terms of, in the definitely the playoff mix. I think we have seen a couple potentially tipping Colchester for top 3. Wasn't beyond the realms of impossible. Certainly going into yesterday. I'm not sure if yesterday might have taken a hit yesterday, but like I said, they're a side that don't concede many goals, but conceding 4. They'll want to right some wrongs very quickly in that one, won't they?
Yeah, absolutely. They've got the perfect chance to bounce back playing Grimsby, who've just stole their playoff spot. They've been on such an incredible run that one game shouldn't affect their confidence too much.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just the perfect opportunity to bounce back in such a big game. It'd probably be another big crowd over at the Job Serve. It's a really big game, but it almost a sense that we've forgotten how Colchester lose a game. Aside that, as I mentioned, they don't concede a lot. They don't lose a lot either. So there's that aspect to it. They're a very tough team to break down, but certainly if you're scoring 4 past them, you've clearly done something right with Bradford. I think we've probably got to mention the attendance yesterday. I know that obviously Jake tweeted out a bit of a banger tweet on the FTF account. It was you, wasn't it? Was I doing that
I'll take the credit.
You can take the credit. Yeah. I was just trying to find the official number for it. Was it? So it was 23,381 at Valley Parade yesterday. Yes, that with tickets like a £5 or something like that. I've seen quite a lot of comments with that, but to sort of back Bradford up, look, we know that I think they've got one of the cheaper season tickets anyway, and certainly in terms of what people pay for other clubs, there's certainly you do get more out your money over at Bradford, and that shouldn't be a bad thing. What I will say, excuse me, what I will say is, if you're in where Bradford are at the minute in a promotion battle with a chance of the title, of course, you're gonna, and if you've got a stadium like that in which they've had very good numbers at home. They've constantly been double digits. They've constantly been near 20,000, I think, at times this season. You're gonna take every opportunity possible to try and fill that stadium and for them to get behind the boys as they head into what is the biggest part of the most crucial part of the season. And it's worked for them. It certainly gave the crowd another lift. I did see before we started recording again that it looks like this is something that Bradford are doing again against Crewe in a few weeks' time. I think I saw that tickets were a tenner for like adults and like a £5 for like under 17s, I think it was, or something like that. And good on them. Look, Bradford are they're a decent sized club. They've been in League 2 for far too long, and they've got their best chance at promotion that they've ever had in this. Certainly during a time in this division, and they need every they need to take advantage of everything they can get going. And not fair play to him for that, but 23,000, just over. This is League Two football we're on about. Tell me a fourth division anywhere in the world, anywhere in Europe, that gets attendances as good as that. As you mentioned in that tweet, it was bigger in March. That attendance was bigger than 2 Premier League games. That attendance was bigger than 10 Bundesliga games. I'm just reading off your tweet. But it was bigger than 13 Serie A games. It was bigger than 15 La Liga games. Bigger than 31 Championship games, and that's even in our country. 16 Eredivisie games. That was bigger than that. 10 games in Liga. This is League Two. League Two, and we're seeing numbers like that. It is absolutely phenomenal, and what a credit to the league that is. I mean, it's seeing numbers like that. I don't care, you say it's cheap, say it's this or that or whatever. Say what you like about Bradford. I know that they get rubbish at times from fan bases, but you cannot deny that. That is absolutely phenomenal. Those attendances. I know, going on a little bit like it's the attendance books or anything like that. It's like, right, okay, I'm not paying 30 quid for Crewe. Like something like that. I mean, that's a rip-off in itself. But look, name me a fourth division that gets numbers as big as that. Because I'll be waiting a while, I think. I mean, what a country. What a country. Yeah, that's all I'm in it on.
Well, yeah, I think it just is incredible, and I've seen a lot of people online trying to sort of put them down for it, for prices being cheap or whatever. But you'd love it if your club did that. If any club had that initiative, you would absolutely love it to try and build up the crowds. I mean, I don't know, that I'm sure there'll be comments about it with me being a Dons fan and
I was going to say MK have that
seat stadium, but the thing is, we're starting to do these sorts of initiatives as well, and it's the sort of thing you like to see. You want football to be affordable for your local area. You are representing, well, for Bradford, they're representing City Bradford. For us, we're representing City of Milton Keynes. You love to see these things happen, and I'd say long may it continue. And I don't think we should be putting them down for doing that at all, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. And football is just such a working man's game. People want to take up, initiatives like that, and people want to get behind their teams, and any ways that they can to do that, then it's great. It's great. There's just not much more to be said. It was just such a sight. I mean, I know a couple of people that went. I knew someone at uni that went. Obviously, I've seen quite a lot of clips as well. with the scarves and the flags and it just looked great. And again, this is League Two we're on about. You can knock Bradford down all you like, but I mean that looked like a sight yesterday, and they certainly they played a part in yesterday. You could tell that they clearly played a part in it. They knew it was a big game, and you can tell they were right up for it. But that is a huge result for Bradford, and of course, they've got those couple of defeats out of the way. They've got another chance for a win at Accrington. Go into next week. Is a decent opportunity there to build on that. But if Bradford, honestly, if Bradford don't go up this season, then there's something wrong. I know could be some people are saying that it's in the DNA of Bradford, but I don't see how you can have that sort of result and not get promoted from it. I really can't. That's just me anyway. But of course, what that does do is whack the pressure on Walsall a little bit. Walsall didn't win yesterday. They didn't lose. They drew goalless at Gillingham. We wanted to spread out the goalless games, because if we just talked about them near the end, like, right, that finished 0-0, that finished 0-0, it would make for a really boring podcast. And I know I wouldn't have blamed you if you turned off, to be quite honest. The Saddlers drew goalless. I think we sort of knew that it wasn't going to be a classic game. It certainly wasn't going to be a high scoring one. But ultimately, I don't think, a point away from home is never a bad thing. But I think if you're probably in Walsall's predicament, that's their 6th game without a win. And Bradford are now a point behind. I think I still think if Walsall don't win the league, it's a travesty. If they drop out the top 3, that'll be even worse. I still think they'll have enough. For at least top 3. Sound like Penfez there, that easy top 3. No, but I still think they'll have enough. But I think we're getting to a head now where I know that Gillingham have picked up a little bit. They've had a few results, a couple of wins, couple of draws, and all that. So they've done okay recently. But do you really have that? Do you really pick a result like that against? To be quite honest, one of the, especially over the course of the season, one of the more poorer teams, in terms of goal scoring. They don't really concede those either, Gills. So there's maybe that aspect to it. I know that Priestfield has been a tough place to go in the past. I mean, it still is at times. But if you're top of the league, do you really have that result if you're in fine form and confident? I'm not sure, to be honest. They just need a win, don't they? But I think they need more than they need to start backing it up, because Bradford are right on their tails now.
I don't think it's even just Bradford necessarily.
No, I say that. No, I mean, Wimbledon, they had their problem. But I mean, Port Vale. I mean, look, if Port Vale win their game in hand on Tuesday, they'll be on 67. They're only 3 points behind them. So there's
Doncaster have a game in hand as well. So
and Doncaster have a game in hand, yeah, and they'll be 4 points behind them if they win that.
Exactly that, and you're looking at Walsall. That's now 6 games without a win, and I don't think there's any excuse. Yes, Gillingham have been better than they have been in the sort of previous couple of months, but Walsall created the chances in this game. I mean, Gillingham created some as well. It was just a case of neither side could actually finish those chances. They had the opportunity to win that game, and they've absolutely wasted it. And I'm sure some of that will be down to confidence. They're still getting fundamentals right there, but the quality just isn't there in the final third at the minute, and that has to be a real concern at this point. If you're not firing at this stage of your season, these other teams are going to catch you. At the minute, I genuinely wouldn't be surprised if Walsall didn't make the top 3, because I'm looking at Bradford, I'm looking at Port Vale that have been on a pretty good run, only really dropping 1 game recently. I mean, even Colchester could come out of nowhere. You never know. And then you've obviously got Port Vale and I've already said Port Vale, Doncaster as well. So there's a number of teams that could easily sort of swoop in. So I think Walsall are in real trouble at the minute.
Do you get the sense that Walsall are starting to tire?
Yeah, I'd say there's definitely an element of that. I think they do have some players missing, and I think it's certainly in terms of the strike force, they're limited in terms of options they're prepared to use. So I don't know if there's that element to it as well. But yeah, I mean, something needs to change. I don't quite know what it is, because like I said, they're still getting some fundamentals right. It's just they're not getting the results to go with it.
Yeah, true. And to be fair, I've just had a look at their injury list, and there's quite a few pretty big names out. Ellis Harrison, Connor Barrett, Pretty Farquharson is a player I quite like. Gordon missed the game. Josh Gordon as well. I was thinking of their I can't even remember now. I'm losing the plot. But you know what I mean. His name's Gordon as well. I cannot remember his. Oh no, I can't. Liam Gordon. That's it. I'm so sorry, mate. It's like me confusing my Allens, isn't it?
It's something
about
Tom
Walsall.
Allen all over again.
Something about Walsall players I really don't like. With their names and how I just don't know who they are, because I don't know. That's just a me problem now, isn't it? Jay, what did you think? Mainly, I don't know, just in general, really, about Walsall at the minute, or even Gills, if you really want. I mean, their season's pretty much done, so it was a more important game for Walsall than it was for Gillingham, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'd be worried for Walsall a little bit, because at this stage of the season, momentum will get you across the line. But when you're in the form they've been in since Nathan Lowe left, really, it's been really, really poor. So it wouldn't surprise you, like Luke said, if they fall out the top 3, and you wouldn't back them to win the playoffs, because they could play someone like Colchester or Grimsby even, and they'll have a lot more momentum going into that game.
Yeah, you know what? I agree with that completely. Let's say they made the playoffs. They are not the side I'm backing. Let's just put it like that. I think let's have a look at the playoffs at the minute. I mean, you've got Port Vale in there, Doncaster, Notts County, who have been, I think, pretty best convincing, these last few weeks, but, they've had quite a lot of players out. And there's currently Grimsby in there as well, in which we know we can give anyone a game on our day at the minute. Certainly in Port Vale and Doncaster's case, I'd fancy them a lot more than what I do Walsall at the minute. But I'm just having a quick look of Walsall's next couple of games. They've got AFC Wimbledon next, Doncaster after that, Port Vale after that. So, they've got some huge games coming up against promotion chasing sides. So it's not like it's going to get easier, but these are the games in which they're really going to have to show up now. They're really going to have to find something from underneath in which they've not had for a few weeks. Pull a rabbit out of the bag, because I think that's what they sort of need to do at the minute, because, that as every week goes, it's just sort of, drifting beyond their eyes, so to speak. It's not a great result in isolation, really, is it? And the fact that they're now 6 without a win, it's certainly not a great look. AFC Wimbledon, they went 2-0 up at home to Barrow, and they've they blew it, didn't they? Very late on, goals in the 88th, in the 96th minute for Barrow, walking away, leaving London with a point. Of course, we mentioned about AFC Wimbledon's home form. It's not been all that recently. I mean, you see their past few home games. They've lost to Bromley. I mean, they beat Notts County, but they lost to Cheltenham, and then they blew. Then they blew a late lead at home to Barrow when they were 2-0 up. They've not been in the best of form either. Just 2 wins in 5, 6, just the 2 wins in their last 8 games. 3 draws in that time. And another side that are struggling for a little bit of consistency at the wrong time. There has been, they have played, quite a few tough games, but there have been teams in there in which you probably do back them to be beaten. It's 2-0 up at home, especially with how good, on the whole, your home form has been all season. Against a side in which, again, have nothing really to play for. It's really not a great result if you're an AFC Wimbledon fan. It's a great result if you're Luke Payne, because I imagine he certainly enjoyed that one when he checked his phone at 5 o'clock yesterday afternoon or yesterday evening.
Well, I mean, I predicted a draw, just maybe not quite like that. But I don't know. I mean, initially I hadn't even realised that it was a late comeback. So when I saw that, I burst into laughter. I'll be honest. I can't pretend to not be smug about a result like that as a Dons fan. But I don't know. I think you're talking earlier about Walsall potentially having sort of tiredness issues. I think that comes into play even more with AFC, because their squad is relatively small, and the players they're prepared to actually use, there aren't many. The fall off is very quick once you move past that starting 11, I think, and it's starting to hurt them a little bit. There's two late goals there. They've had all these other results you'd expect them to pick up, especially these home games, because they have been so strong at home pretty much all season up until last few weeks. I do think tiredness is starting to take its toll. They've either got to risk rotation and bring in these players, which they did for a game a couple of weeks ago in midweek, and I mean, they underperformed again, and I criticised them for changing it. So you sort of see it's this huge sort of dilemma that you get, where you've got to try and figure out some sort of solution that doesn't jeopardise your promotion push, and it's a tricky one for them to figure out at the minute. And I don't know. I mean, just to finally comment, it would still be funny if Barrow then went and lost to Port Vale on Tuesday. That would just be the icing on the cake of this whole situation. But it's a real missed opportunity for AFC. And again, we're saying that the Bradford game was huge for them. This would be a moment we look back on, and this is why they got promoted. With AFC, I think it's the total opposite. This could be a game we look back and go, oh, they threw away 2 points, and that's why they're not up.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, sorry about that. If you're watching it on YouTube, my dad, my old man, decided to pick up my washing that I forgot to take to pick up earlier from downstairs. But we'll ignore that. But yeah, I can. Yeah, that's certainly one. I think it's certainly, if you look at it, it's one of those results at the end of the season. If they don't go up, that could be one of them. And you look back and think, what if? I certainly get that from them. But yeah, Jake, anything to add on that? I do, guys. You do have to give Barrow some credit. Good character away from home, to pick up a draw very late on.
Yeah, when you're in Barrow's position and your season's just slowly fading away, to come back at a side that don't concede many from 2-0 down late on is really impressive. And they can gain a little bit of hope from it that they can actually have a good end to the season, build some momentum for next season. But I'd be disappointed if I was Wimbledon, because you've got to see that out in order to keep that promotion push.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that 100%. They've got Walsall next, do AFC Wimbledon. Again, that is a huge game for them right there. There's two sides there in which, their promotion pushes have, I say, sort of derailed a little bit. Especially in Walsall's case, I think I think they've gone off the tracks a little bit as of late, but they still find themselves top. But yeah, if results like that for Wimbledon, that could really hurt them, and that's just not what you want at this stage of the season now, where every point possible where they are is key. And if that's gonna happen, then you're not getting promoted on the back of that. It's as simple as that. But I'm really intrigued with that Walsall Wimbledon game. That's got a draw written all over it now. I said that. Probably 0-0 as well, if this week's anything to go by.
That's a 0-0. Neither of them are going up.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Let's have a look at another 0-0, shall we? Let's have a look at the one at Meadow Lane, because we know me and you sort of hyped this game up a little bit. This was, Notts County Crewe. I watched this game in the pub. Obviously, Notts County had more of it, more attempts. Nothing that really clear cut. I know David McGoldrick had a chance near the end that just whistled past the post, but I don't think they really created that many outstanding chances or anything like that. I don't know. Crewe defended pretty well for the most of it, as you probably expect Crewe to do. A side that don't give away a hell of a lot. I don't think it helps either, this result. I really don't. Notts are a side that are sort of losing their way a little bit. I know they've had a lot of, they've had a fair few players out. I know they missed Alessandro Jatti yesterday. I think he's out on his national duty. I know Crewe have as well. They've had some players back. I know Mickey Dimitri was back. Has back in the squad. I'm not sure how long he's been back in. I think he might have been there a little bit now. Never mind. Ignore me. Yesterday was his first appearance back. So that's obviously a huge boost for Crewe heading into these last few games. I don't think a result is that beneficial for any, if I'm going to be completely honest at this stage.
Yeah, I'd be inclined to agree. It just looked like two sides that clearly had forward players missing. Like, well, there were sort of like half chances, all the rest of it, but I don't think anyone really had that sort of clinical nature needed up front. The sort of ruthlessness that you would expect of a top side. I think with Crewe in particular, it's quite frustrating. There are a few times where it looked like, oh yes, we can go and break, and then they just slow play down. Something I'm very familiar with as a Dons fan, but I digress. Crewe didn't actually have a single shot on target in that game. So if you don't hit the target, chances are you're probably not going to score. There are very select circumstances where you can, but you're not doing yourself many favors there. From a Notts perspective, obviously at home they probably have a slight advantage. You could argue, yes, missing Jatta, all the rest of it, but there's still enough quality in that side that they should have done more. You don't want to be relying on one or two individuals of like, oh yes, here's Jody Jones. Oh yes, here's Alessandro Jatta. You've got other players in that squad that are more than capable, and this was one of those games where they really needed to step up, and they've just totally missed the mark.
Yeah, exactly. Can we mention the penalty or penalty, that sort of decision? Philip Marshall on Charlie Whittaker. Whittaker was but for simulation. Dive or no dive?
Dive for me. I think he makes the most of it. He knows what he's doing.
What I will say, there's definitely contact. There's just not enough. I think it's. But I think I've seen quite a lot of people saying it should be a pen, and I'm really struggling to see it.
I think for me, it's just the fact that I think Whittaker has been the one to initiate the contact there. It's a case of he'd already kind of lost control of the ball. He realised that Marshall wasn't going to come any further. Right, let's make sure my foot hits him and try and get a pen. So yeah. I think there's that element to it. Although there's contact, for me, it's still a dive.
Yeah, maybe. It took me a couple of looks on the replays when I showed it, but I thought it looked like a dive at the time. But I did see quite a lot of comments saying that it should have been a pen, and honestly, I can't figure out. Well, I can figure out with the sense that I think there was contact, as I've mentioned, but nowhere near enough. And I don't think it's nowhere near enough for a pen. If we look at it like that, Jake, any other thoughts on that? Anything on Crewe? I mean, a lot of point away from home is never a bad thing at Notts County, but yeah, there's still a point outside of the playoff places, but they've got crucial games coming up. With Port Vale next, and then Grimsby after that. And Bradford after that.
Yeah, their run isn't favourable, so you need to be picking up points wherever you can, and they're doing it, but not convincingly. They're getting a couple, like the last 3 games have all been draws, and it wouldn't surprise you if the next 3 are draws. But they just need to pick up that consistency and just try and win more games, because if they don't get in the playoffs, it will come down to the amount of games they've drawn.
Yeah, perhaps. I don't think it helps that their running is just ridiculous, isn't it? They've got a really tough running coming up, especially compared to other teams around where they are. I think in terms of games that are coming up against sides that are up there, I don't think anyone's got it harder than Crewe at the minute. But yeah, it's not really much more to take away from this game. It wasn't a great game. It really wasn't a great game of football at all. Let's move on to the late show at Vale Park. Ronan Curtis with a very late goal for Port Vale, giving them a huge 3 points against a struggling Morecambe side. I thought this was a game in which, Port Vale certainly had the quality. There's a case in which, I think it'll be too strong. I can't remember if I said that I think they'd be too strong, but I think I also did mention that, Crewe don't lose, but Crewe. I'm confusing Crewe and Morecambe. Morecambe don't lose by big margins. They've only lost most games. They've lost by the odd goal, 2 at most. It's again to lose. Was it in the 89th minute? Was it? Ronan Curtis loves a late goal. As a special one. In the colours of AFC Wimbledon was it last season? Now, yeah, it was last season.
We don't talk about it.
Yeah, he loves a late goal, that lad. It's a huge win for Port Vale. There's no more to be said there, and obviously they're still very much in the automatic conversations. Just goal difference separates them and AFC Wimbledon, and of course they've got that game in hand on Tuesday against Barrow. I think I saw. But yeah, it's another massive kick in the teeth for Morecambe. And again, I'm at the question. They're not getting out of it. They're just not getting out of it for me.
Yeah, Morecambe are down. I've been saying that for weeks. They're long gone. They're not the side I'd be worried about out of the 2 currently down there. I'm far more worried about Carlisle, or I was. Now that we've got points, I'm not bothered. But I don't think Morecambe have enough quality. They're very good at setting up to not lose. They're not great at trying to win, to be honest. I mean, to be fair, they held Port Vale for a long, long time. And to be honest, this game was very, very similar to just about all of the 0-0s that we had this weekend. But the difference was when Port Vale had their moment, they took it. They had the quality to take that one chance they've had to kill the game off, and it wasn't an easy chance either. To be fair, it was a good goal. As much as it pains me to admit it, because it's him, but but no, that's the sort of game you have to get through. If you want to be up there towards the top, and this is why I'm leaning towards Port Vale being, well, not just top 3. At the minute, I'd be suggesting Port Vale would be champions if they carry on in this vein.
They've just got quality all over the pitch, haven't they? I mean, look, we're at this point of the season where points on the board is the biggest thing. And to get 3 points against a side in which, they've had a terrible season, I know circumstances have played into it with them, but, you still got to play what's in front of you, and you still got to do your job, and they've just about done it. Very late in the day, but it puts them in a very good position, because if they get any result against Barrow in the week, of course, they do move up to the automatic promotion places at the expense of AFC Wimbledon. There you go, Luke, there's one for you. How do you fancy Port Vale at the minute?
Yeah, I mean, I genuinely think they're going to make top 3 at this point. They've been consistently good for long enough now. They've only dropped 1 or 2 games. They're finding ways of getting results. Like I said, they're doing the same things Colchester are doing. They're just doing it that little bit more, and they've been doing it for longer. Hence why they're higher up in the table. That basic points scoring system there. But no, at the minute, I fully expect them to do it. And for me, I think they're the only team that could potentially challenge Bradford for that top spot.
Yeah, maybe. Quick thoughts on Morecambe, Jake. Do you think that it seems like saying this, but do you see any way they get out of this? Like any way? Because I know you've obviously got Carlisle. That they've got their stuff, but Tranmere picked up another point yesterday. There's that one. It's just the lack of quality is really showing, hasn't it, all season?
Yeah, it's gone the way that everyone expected them to go, and it's 7 points now. Tranmere are picking up a decent run of 5 games unbeaten. I'd be very surprised if they could get out of the relegation zone.
I mean, it'd be some achievement if they do. Let's just put it like that. To Vale Park, from Vale Park to Blundell Park now. Of course, Grimsby Town returned to winning ways yesterday, taking advantage of Crewe dropping points at Notts County, taking advantage of Colchester losing at Bradford. We picked up 3 points against Newport County. Thank you very much, Kieran. Your boys are absolutely awful. And we're back in the playoff places. But no, I can't express to you enough. I think we needed that. I think we really needed that. Back-to-back defeats at home against Notts County and Salford. I thought we played quite well for quite the majority of the game against Notts County. Lost. We tied there. Salford. We looked tired from the off really. And we just weren't out the race at all. We've had that week. We've freshened it up. And if we were that little bit more ruthless, we should have won that game by about 4 or 5 now, especially in the first half. Barrington missed a one-on-one. Greeny missed a one-on-one. And would you believe it, the goal we did score came from a deflected free kick. So it just sums everything you need to know about League Two up for you. No, George McEachran with it. I cannot express to you how much I love. I think throughout my time watching Town, he's the best midfielder I've seen play for us by a distance. He just oozes class all over the pitch. He's clear, yeah. He's so. I keep mentioning it. Danny Rose and Kieran Green are 2 big players in this team. I'd probably argue now that George McEachran is in that same bracket. He's just so good. A lot of very good performances yesterday. Tywell Warren has become a bit as the unsung hero at centre back. He's done a very good job there. In recent weeks, I was a little bit iffy of him to start with. I won't say he's a bad player by any means, but I didn't think he wasn't really uninspiring or anything like that. I thought Luca Barrington had an excellent game. I think there was maybe a couple of question marks over him. I think he just needs that goal to give him the world of good. Of course, there's no worse enemy than him at the minute, missing that chance. And of course, that one at Walsall where he was 1-on-1 of the keeper and he's tried to take it around him and he's dragged it wide and it's gone out for a goal kick. It'll be his worst, but it's the best I've seen him play for us. He's a young lad at the end of the day, and he's still trying to find his feet. Newport were awful. Truth be told, they deserve nothing from that, and they've got their just rewards. And of course, with that being mean against Kieran, that means that's an updated FTF league table for you. With that win, we can no longer mathematically finish bottom. Thank you very much. I do not mind that at all, because of course Jack can't catch us now. With him being on 7 points, there's still a chance that we could still finish top. But we'd need to beat MK, and we'd need to win that, well, by at least a 3-goal swing. I don't really want it to go down to goal difference, because that means I've got to work out what happens there. And that could be a bit of a pain. There's still a chance Kieran could win. He's got still 2 games, but he has to win both of them. If he has to win both those games for him to finish top. And of course, we probably won't know until the last couple of weeks of the season now, because we go to MK second to last. I think I think Newport played the two other games in quite a short space of time. I think there's one on the final day as well.
Newport Tranmere final day. Yeah. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, exactly. But no, look, I've just zoomed that into into full screen. But there you go. Look, I can't tell you how big that result is, especially going into these next couple of weeks where Colchester, next Friday, Crewe away to come after that on a Tuesday. You've got 2 promotions, 2 playoff promotion 6-pointers right there. And to be in this position is an absolute privilege. But we're not there by accident. I think we probably know that we are I think we are the underdogs a little bit, especially I think recently, with the amount of players we've got out as well. I like this team. I really like this team. It's completely different to what we were last year. I question the commitment of some of those players last year. I question the quality. I question their sort of desire. I don't get that with this team. I really don't. They'll run through brick walls for you. They're running through brick walls for Dave Artell. And it's just nice to just enjoy a town team and to see a clear plan come together. That's what I've really enjoyed about this season. And as I've mentioned many a times, even if we don't make the playoffs this season, that should not be seen as a failure, because this season has been a very good one for us. And I was delighted with the win yesterday.
Oh, yeah, rightfully so. Like I said, I think the good thing with you guys is there's not necessarily the same expectation as some of the other teams up there. I don't think there's quite as much pressure, and it means you guys can just go out, play your game, do your absolute best, and if it's enough, then you've certainly earned it. And I think you'd gone 3 games without a win at home, so the result was always the most important thing with this one. I mean, sure, you could have scored probably a lot more, and I think the score probably flattered Newport quite a bit actually in the end from the chances you had. But as I said, the result's the important thing, and it gives you a platform you can build on going into some of these tougher games that the season definers. So it lots to be positive about, really. Yeah.
And of course, it sort of stopped the moaning about Kiosk Gate on the Friday night. Of course, for some that didn't know, I don't think the club covered themselves in glory with the fact that you're saying that. What was it? It was about like make sure you eat all your food and drink before you enter the ground. It caused a lot of outrage. I mean, the club. I don't think the club are wrong, but I think they could have dealt with that a lot better. I mean, it was look yesterday. I mean, look, I had work pretty much straight after, and I had a bottle of Coke in there, and of course, I sent you a picture. I managed to get a Twix in there that I bought from a shop just outside the ground before I went in. It's like, right, okay, I dare them to take that off me. So is there any bottles in there? To be honest, I lied. That's how I said no. It was just sort of just hid. Like in between my work years, like saying that next time don't bring that in. Right, okay. It almost felt like I was testing the water a little bit without actually meaning. Well, I say without meaning to. That's what it sort of became. It caused. Yeah, it was a fun night on Twitter. That I was gonna say. I hope those players got their post-match dominoes after the game, because that would have been really annoying if they turned that away at the gate. so yeah, they'd be in a right upset mood, especially after a good win as yesterday was. But yeah, look, Newport, poor. They've had good days. The season's done. I wasn't threatened by them at all, to be honest. Anything to take from that, Jake?
Just a slight concern over Grimsby not taking their chances, because you do have a negative goal difference, and getting in the playoffs.
Who cares? Who cares if it gets us promotion?
It's
we can have a -20 goal difference if we go up there. Who cares? We want to be that team, that wants to go up with them. It almost feels like the players just don't want a positive goal difference, because they get worse on the back of that. Right, a couple of defeats, let's bring that down a little bit as to where we are. Next thing you know, they've got that kick up the backside, and they're ready to, and they go again. But I do. We should have been more ruthless yesterday, especially with those 2 1-on-1s. There's certainly a case that that game should have been out of sight at half time. We played some really lovely stuff in there, but again, as I've mentioned, like with Port Vale, it's the points at the end of the day, and we've managed to get 3 points there, so I'm not complaining there. Carlisle had a rare win. They beat Bromley. I was quite sceptical of Carlisle and the Links. I feel like I've been backing them, and of course, the one time I don't back them, they go and win. The most obvious goal scorer of the day also happened, which was Harry McCurdy, of course, scoring at Carlisle for Bromley. But it's a win for Carlisle. There's that. Yeah. It's a home one as well. They've not seen many home wins, especially in the last year.
Yeah, I mean, if I remember correctly, I think I predicted that. I can't quite remember. I think I did.
I think you did.
Yeah, this game could have honestly ended about 5, 6, 7, 3, 4, 5. There were so many chances in this game. It could have been way higher scoring than it was, which I certainly didn't predict. I was expecting it to be very very quiet 1-0 sort of affair. But no, I mean, fair play to Carlisle. Carlisle, they've created a lot. They clearly looked up for it, and to be honest, it is making me a bit more worried about playing them on Tuesday. So I was like, oh yeah, we can. I'm sure we can just go up there and have a nice routine little win now that we've got another result against Cheltenham. But no, Carlisle looked surprisingly good, and that's why I'm not writing them off of actually surviving just yet. They're not going to catch us, obviously, but they're I think 7 points off Tranmere currently. Tranmere are improving as well. There are a couple teams slightly above that if they don't pick up points, there's always a very, very slim chance. But if all they can do is get their results, and if you get in the wins, you're at least in the fight, which is more than I can say for Morecambe, really. So fair play to Carlisle, decent result.
Yeah, look, let's look at it this way. Of course, if they were to beat MK on Tuesday, that'll put them on 33 points. They'll be 4 points behind Tranmere with 8 games to go. So it's certainly not beyond the realms of impossible. But again, I still stand by it. They've got to put some wins together against teams in which you probably don't fancy them beating, but that's just where they are at the minute. And you see the games coming up. They've got MK, they've got Doncaster, they've got Chesterfield, some pretty tough games there. But it's the couple of games after that they've got Newport, and then they've got Morecambe, and there's 2 good opportunities there where they could pick up something. In fact, you probably look at their last few games, and you see those 2 games. I mean, after that they've got Port Vale, which is a tough one. But after that, you've got Accrington, you've got Cheltenham, and then you've got Salford. So
it's doable.
Their running is not terrible. Is not terrible by any means. I've seen worse run-ins, and there's certainly opportunities for points there if they play their cards right. For Bromley, it was unlikely. I think they probably would have got up in the playoffs anyway. 7 points adrift from it now. It does look like a long shot, but they've had a very solid first season back, very solid season in the EFL. I say back, they've never been in this position before anyway. Whatever happens is their highest ever finish. It's certainly been, a relatively good season for them. But you probably, to be fair, I probably should have seen a result coming for the fact that they did lose at Tranmere only a couple of weeks ago. So there's that element of it as well, with them losing to a fellow sort of relegation, say, sort of threatened team. I know that Tranmere, picked up a few more points from there. But yeah, other than Harry McCurdy scoring, it's another disappointing day for them without a winning 3. And then those playoff hopes are very quickly evaporating. I'd probably say that I think there's stronger teams already around them, and there's quite a lot of ground to make up. But just quick thoughts on them, Jake, at all. For Bromley, of course, Andy Woodman's been there for a while, did a very good job on the whole, hasn't he? And of course, with their FA Cup against Newcastle as well this season, they've had a decent season.
Yeah, the season's been superb, really. Obviously, they'll be slightly disappointed that they haven't put a stronger playoff run together, but Andy Woodman knows what they need to do to improve in the summer, and I'm sure they will.
And of course, you've got them next. I've just set the games coming up. Can we? Are we having another 3-3 where it was 3-0 down again? Where's that tenner? Was it tenner or 5? I can't remember what you offered now.
Yeah, I think it's been lost in the post.
Well, in that case, I'll send you my details after this. I don't expect that money. Right. Look, MK won. They beat Cheltenham. I nearly said Chesterfield. It looked like a very good victory, and it also looked like a much deserved victory.
We were good. We were very, very good. It's by far our best performance in a long time. We totally shut out Cheltenham. They had moments where they sort of looked like they were coming back into the game towards the end of the first half. They had a couple of moments in the second half as well, but they only had 2 shots on target, both of which came from the same move. Players like Ethan Archer essentially did nothing. We played them out of the game, and we had ideas going forwards. You could see in the warm up we were really up for this game. You could just tell the players were vibing with each other, and that reflected in the performance immediately. I mean, sure, it was only 1 goal, and we probably should have scored more, but given the run we've been on, you don't really care, do you? You just want the result, and that's exactly what we've got. And interestingly, it was a slight different system as well, slightly different formation. Had 2 strikers for once, which I absolutely loved. Hendry and Orsi up front together. Just imagine the work rate. That so much running goes into that. You have Hendry going up for every aerial battle he possibly can. Orsi's making runs everywhere. It seemed to work quite well. And yeah, I mean, even we didn't even have a right wing back as such. We were playing Gilby at right wing back, and it didn't even matter. We were just playing that well. So hopefully, it's signs of things to come. Hopefully, it's a sign of a shift in mentality, which is the big thing, because we still don't have a manager. Although there were 2 out of work managers at that game, actually. John Brady, obviously, formerly of Northampton, and Michael Duff, who was also at the reverse game when we first played him, and obviously has links to Cheltenham. So it could just be that. But I genuinely wouldn't be surprised if this was Michael Duff potentially being our new manager. But maybe it would be nice. I'd quite like that.
Yeah, those 2 names, I think either are very good appointments, especially at League 2 level. Of course, Michael Duff has promotion experience with Cheltenham, and had that very good season with Barnsley, and things haven't quite worked out ever since leaving there. Then you've obviously got John Brady, who did an excellent job at Northampton. He was there for quite a while, wasn't he? And of course, I'd imagine that he'll be looking to get back into work pretty soon. But it's time with MK, and I'm still I mean, you're at this stage of the season now where you've got nothing to play for. Let's try out different things. Let's try and start to put a focus onto next season. And let's see where you go. I think these next few weeks, these next few months could be one of intrigue potentially over there. And of course, we know obviously, and this season's been, I think, anyone far from what they expected. I mean, take away the 8 from 18, and then you've got first, and then I think that's what people did predict. But you find themselves 18th. It's been a very underwhelming season by your stands. But I mean, for Cheltenham, it's another defeat for them. I mean, it's a very good win, because Cheltenham have been pretty good at home. Probably they've had a couple of defeats recently, though. Yeah, I don't see them making playoffs now.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if they did, because there's a lot of stronger teams above them. You look at Chesterfield, Colchester, obviously Grimsby in that spot at the minute. I can't see them catching up to them.
Yeah, and I think it's sort of where I expected Cheltenham to be, or a little. In fact, no, I'm lying. It was I think they're probably a little bit high, because I think there was a lot of unknown going into the season at Cheltenham with a load of new players, new manager. The play turnover was ridiculous. And at times they've certainly been on the eye. They've caught the eye a few times, and there's something there to build on. Let's have a look at the other 0-0s. Let's just whiz through these because we're cracking on. We're going to have a look at the other games, but I'm not sure we'll have time for that now. Chesterfield drew with Harrogate. Let's put a halt to Chesterfield's 3-match winning run. Harrogate, it sort of just looked the case of they played for a point. I feel like I get the sense of Harrogate that they like to do that away from home, and you can't really blame them. I think there was still a couple, 1 or 2 like relegation like shouts, but I still Harrogate will have enough. But Chesterfield unable to find a way through with 19 shots there.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much exactly as you said it. Harrogate would have come for a point. They got a point, job done. Chesterfield, yeah, it's a bit disappointing. They generated chances, but again, just not quite the quality on the day. And I think we've seen that a few times this season. They obviously had quite a few goals in their side earlier in the season, but with all the injuries they've had, all the rest of it, it just hasn't quite clicked the way you'd hoped. There's still potential for next season though with them. There's a good project there.
I'd still keep an eye on them at the minute. I'm just having a look at their fixtures. They've got Barrow, Carlisle, Tranmere, Gillingham, Fleetwood. Their next 5. If they can get a few wins there and continue that run going, if they get some
the game in hand as well,
makes things interesting, doesn't it?
Yeah, fair play. Still a chance. It'd be impressive to do it with that many players missing, in fairness.
Yeah, I'm not ruling them out just yet. I see some more in them than compared to other teams. Fleetwood drew with Tranmere. There was a couple of dodgy referee calls in this one, as Jack pointed out, but a game that certainly looked short of any sort of quality. Just the one shot on target for Fleetwood. I mean, 3 shots on target for Tranmere. Yeah, I don't really know what to say for that. I mean, I think probably you're looking at the sides at the bottom. I know Carlisle won, but it's certainly but Tranmere have gained a point. I don't know, but they're still certainly not out of the woods yet, especially if Carlisle were to get a result against MK. In particular a win. Quick thoughts, Jake, because I'm struggling with this one.
Yeah, I think Tranmere will be the disappointing side with their penalty shots, not getting them, and then it finishing 0-0. If Colchester, Carlisle pulled off a miracle, then I do think they'd look back on that result as a bit of a disappointing result.
Yeah, and they'll probably look at that again. Did I fancy Tranmere in the week? I can't remember if I did. It was neither that or a draw, but again, it felt like a 0-0 draw. Actually, now thinking about it, I can't remember if I said it at the time. I'll have to go back and have a watch of that. And then Swindon and Accrington, a game in which I said was just the most dead rubber out of the fixtures at the weekend. No surprise that also finished 0-0. Obviously, I mean, you're looking at it. Swindon had more possession, had more of the shots. Accrington only had 5 compared to Swindon's 14. Let's be honest, there's nothing to play for both teams. I don't really know why I'm really wasting time with this. I don't know. Just do you have any thoughts? Because it's another one I'm struggling with. Because
I mean, they've basically just done Harrogate, haven't they? To be fair, they're in a very similar position to Harrogate, and they have pretty much just replicated that performance into a different game. And both teams have had the exact same result, exactly the same thing with Chesterfield, as I said, as I'd say with Swindon, just had chances.
And there we go. Thank you. It cut out my. I'm not sure if that. I don't know. Sorry, what did you say? Did I'm not sure if that cut out. Did
it cut out?
I'm keeping this in. I can't be bothered to. It's just...
Yeah, they basically Swindon just didn't have the quality to score. That's pretty much all there was to it. They had chances, didn't take them. Yeah. That's it.
And that's quite surprising, actually, considering how many Swindon have scored, and especially at times the amount of goals that Accrington do concede. So maybe a little bit surprised if you're going it on that sense. I'll be honest, I don't really want to dwell on it. That one, I think we'll probably leave it there. We were going to have a look at the. In fact, there's a couple of minutes left. Let's just have a quick look through Port Vale. There's Port Vale and Barrow. Obviously, it's a big game for Port Vale, because if they win, they'll obviously be in the top 3. MK go to Carlisle. It's got to be another win for Carlisle, basically. But it's another interesting one from an MK perspective. That against bottom of the league.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what to expect. I think it's a Tuesday night away game, so probably a loss. But I just want to see a decent performance from us. I think it will be a tricky game. I don't think Carlisle will have as many chances as they did on Saturday. So it will just be a case of whoever has the moment will win the game. It'll probably be one of those annoying 1-0 games, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, Jake, just a quick one on Port Vale Barrow, as I've just mentioned it as well. Quick thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I'd be surprised if it wasn't a Port Vale win. They need to keep building that momentum, and I can see them doing it with another straightforward win.
Absolutely. Right, we'll leave it there. I'm sorry that this episode was not glamorous. We'll blame the game. I mean, look, it's not really our fault when you've got 5 0-0s and 3-1, and when you've not got a great deal going on. But we do appreciate your support, as always. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're new. Make sure you download the podcast wherever you get your podcast from. We'll be back in the week for potentially something a little bit different. We're not going to give away too much just now. But of course, let's just say go to our Twitter. You might know a little bit more there just from reading it. Also, quick thank you for 1,000 followers on Twitter as well. We really do appreciate it. We'll wrap it up there. Thank you guys for listening. Take care of yourselves. We'll see you next time.